Right this second, your body is carrying around thousands of zombie cells. These are damaged cells that refuse to die. They just sit there inside you, secretly pumping out the exact inflammation that makes you feel tired, achy, and older than you actually are. I'm going to show you 5 very specific foods that act like natural assassins, hunting down these zombie cells and flipping the switch on your body's built-in repair mode. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what to put on your grocery list to literally hit the reset button on your health from the inside out. But whatever you do, don't skip the food at number 1. If you miss it, you're missing out on a compound so powerful, longevity scientists literally call it the master switch for human survival. Welcome back to 30-Day Health. If you're new here, hit subscribe, because what you're about to hear is going to blow your mind. Think about your body like a giant, complex machine. Every single day, that machine takes a beating. You step outside and get hit by pollution. You get stressed out at work. You eat something cooked in cheap seed oils. All of this creates something called oxidative stress. If you want to know what oxidative stress looks like, just picture a piece of metal left out in the rain. It rusts. That exact same rusting process is happening inside your cells, right down to your DNA. And when your DNA rusts, it breaks down. Your cells start malfunctioning. They turn into those zombie cells we just talked about. To stop this cellular rusting, you need bodyguards. Tiny, microscopic bodyguards that can step in front of your DNA and take the bullet so your cells don't have to. That brings us to the very first food on our list. We are talking about wild blueberries. Notice I said wild blueberries, not the massive, watery, farm-grown blueberries you usually see sitting in plastic clamshells at the grocery store. There is a massive difference. Regular blueberries are grown for size and sweetness. They are pampered. They get watered perfectly, shielded from harsh weather, and treated like royalty. Because they have such an easy life, they never have to build up their own defense systems. Wild blueberries are completely different. They grow in incredibly harsh climates, mostly up in places like Maine and eastern Canada. They survive freezing winters, scorching summers, and terrible rocky soil. To survive that kind of environmental stress, the wild blueberry plant has to produce a massive amount of protective chemicals. When you eat a wild blueberry, you are literally eating the plant's survival system. That survival system comes in the form of something called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are the dark blue and purple pigments that give the berry its color. But wait until you see what happens to your liver when you eat number 1 on this list, because we are just scratching the surface here. Anthocyanins are some of the most powerful antioxidants on the planet. When you eat them, they get absorbed into your bloodstream, travel into your tissues, and act exactly like those bodyguards your DNA desperately needs. There was actually a fascinating study done on this. Researchers took a group of people and had them eat wild blueberries. Then they drew their blood and exposed the white blood cells to free radicals, which are the unstable molecules that cause oxidative stress and rust your cells. The results were insane. The people who ate the wild blueberries had significantly fewer DNA strand breaks. The anthocyanins literally shielded the human DNA from breaking apart. They stopped the rusting process in its tracks. But the craziest part about how these berries work? It happens in under 2 hours. You don't have to eat wild blueberries every single day for 6 months to see a change. Within just 1 to 2 hours of eating a bowl of them, your blood antioxidant capacity spikes. Your body immediately starts using those plant compounds to put out the fires of inflammation. It is rapid, real-time cellular defense. Now, you might be wondering how to actually get your hands on these without spending a fortune, because fresh wild blueberries can be hard to find and expensive. The secret is the frozen section of your grocery store. Wild blueberries are almost always flash frozen right after they are harvested. This locks in all the anthocyanins. They are usually much cheaper this way, and you can just keep a giant bag in your freezer. But there is a catch, a big one. A lot of people like to throw frozen blueberries into a blender with some milk or yogurt to make a smoothie. Do not do this. Cow's milk contains a specific protein called casein. When you mix casein with wild blueberries, the casein protein physically binds to the anthocyanins. They lock together like puzzle pieces. Once they are locked together, your body cannot absorb the antioxidants. They just pass right through your digestive system, and you lose all that incredible DNA protection. If you want to put them in a smoothie, use water, coconut water, or a nut milk that doesn't have dairy proteins. Keep the dairy far away from your berries if you want them to heal you. Wild blueberries are incredible for protecting the DNA inside your cell, but what about all the junk floating around outside the cell? What about the broken proteins, the metabolic waste, and the actual zombie cells that are already causing trouble? That's where our next food comes in. We need a way to clean up the streets of your body. Imagine your bloodstream and your tissues like a busy city. Over time, garbage piles up on the sidewalks. If the garbage trucks stop running, the city becomes toxic, slow, and sick. In your body, this garbage cleanup process is called autophagy. Autophagy translates to self-eating. It is your body's way of sweeping up the broken junk, breaking it down, and recycling it into new, healthy cell parts. To turn on this cellular garbage truck system, we look to extra virgin olive oil. But we are not just talking about using it to fry an egg. We are talking about using high-quality, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil as actual medicine. The magic inside olive oil comes from a very specific natural compound called oleocanthal. Oleocanthal is a phenolic compound, and it is an absolute freak of nature. Scientists discovered that oleocanthal has the exact same anti-inflammatory mechanism as ibuprofen. It stops the exact same inflammation enzymes in your body. But unlike ibuprofen, which can tear up your stomach lining and cause digestive bleeding if you take too much of it, oleocanthal is completely natural and heals your gut while it works. It is quite literally liquid ibuprofen. When you consume enough oleocanthal, it triggers a massive wave of autophagy. It tells your cells to start aggressively clearing out the trash. It hunts down those zombie cells, breaks them apart, and flushes the waste out of your system. It is one of the most powerful ways to reduce systemic inflammation, which is the root cause of almost every single modern disease you can think of. And the reason why most people get this completely wrong? You won't believe it. The olive oil industry is notoriously corrupt. A massive percentage of the extra virgin olive oil sitting on grocery store shelves right now is completely fake. It is either rancid, expired, or worse, cut with cheap, highly inflammatory seed oils like canola oil or soybean oil. They bottle it in clear plastic, slap a fancy Italian-sounding name on it, and sell it to you. If you cook with that fake oil, you are actually pumping your body full of the exact inflammation you are trying to stop. So how do you know if your olive oil is real? How do you know if it actually has oleocanthal in it? You have to look for the throat catch. Pour a little bit of your olive oil into a spoon and swallow it plain. Wait a few seconds. If it is real, high-quality extra virgin olive oil, you will feel a distinct peppery burn at the back of your throat. It might even make you cough once or twice. That burn is not a sign that the oil has gone bad. That burn is the physical sensation of oleocanthal interacting with the receptors in your throat. If your oil is completely smooth, tastes like nothing, and goes down like water, it is dead oil. It has zero medicinal value. If you're mentally checking your pantry right now to figure out if your olive oil is actually real, hit that like and subscribe button. We are just getting started, and the next food is even wilder. To get the most out of extra virgin olive oil, you shouldn't just cook with it. High heat can actually destroy some of those delicate phenolic compounds. The best way to use it is as a finishing oil. Pour a heavy drizzle over your vegetables after they are already cooked. Mix it into your salads. Or do what a lot of longevity experts do, and just take a tablespoon of it straight in the morning. It sounds intense, but once you get used to that peppery throat catch, you actually start to crave it. Because your body knows it is getting pure liquid healing. So olive oil calls in the cellular trash trucks. But once the trash is gone, you have to rebuild the cell walls. Your cells are not just empty bubbles. They have outer walls, called membranes, that control everything. They decide what nutrients get to come inside and what toxins get pushed out. And there is only one food from the ocean that does it perfectly. We are talking about wild-caught Alaskan salmon. This is the heavyweight champion for cellular repair. I call it the mitochondrial mechanic. To understand why salmon is so powerful, you have to look at what it is actually made of. The first piece of the puzzle is the fat. Salmon is loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. Most people today eat way too many omega-6 fatty acids, which come from processed junk food and cheap cooking oils. When your body is full of omega-6s, your cell walls become stiff, hard, and rigid. Imagine a house where the doors and windows are rusted shut. You can't get fresh air in, and you can't get the garbage out. That is what a stiff cell wall does. Nutrients bounce right off, and toxins get trapped inside. When you eat the omega-3s from wild-caught salmon, they literally replace the bad fats in your cell walls. They rebuild the membrane, making it soft, fluid, and permeable again. Suddenly, the doors and windows of your cells fly open. Vitamins and minerals can easily slide inside, and cellular waste is quickly flushed out. It is a total structural rebuild of your body at a microscopic level. Hold on to that thought, because it totally changes how you'll look at the next food. But omega-3s are only half the story. The real magic of wild-caught salmon is the color. That deep, rich, bright red and pink color comes from a pigment called astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is one of the most fascinating molecules in nature. It is an antioxidant, but unlike most antioxidants that just float around in your blood, astaxanthin has the unique ability to penetrate deep inside the cell and attach itself directly to the mitochondria. Your mitochondria are the battery packs of your cells. They generate the energy that keeps your heart beating, your lungs breathing, and your brain thinking. But making all that energy creates a lot of exhaust, which causes oxidative stress right inside the battery pack. Astaxanthin wraps around your mitochondria like a protective blanket, soaking up all that exhaust and keeping your cellular engines running cleanly. It is the ultimate mechanic for your energy levels. And the reason why you can never get this same healing effect from farmed salmon? You won't believe what they actually feed them. Farmed salmon do not eat their natural diet. They are packed into crowded underwater cages and fed pellets made of soy, corn, and ground-up fish waste. Because they aren't eating their natural diet of wild krill and shrimp, their flesh isn't naturally pink. It is actually a sickly, pale gray color. Nobody would buy gray salmon at the grocery store. So, what do the fish farmers do? They literally feed the salmon synthetic color pellets. They use a man-made chemical dye to artificially turn the fish flesh pink. You can actually look up the color charts they use. Farmers pick the exact shade of pink they want their fish to be, just like picking out paint swatches at a hardware store. Farmed salmon is completely missing the natural astaxanthin, and the fat profile is ruined because of the terrible diet they are fed. They are loaded with inflammatory omega-6s instead of healing omega-3s. When you go to the store, you have to read the labels carefully. Do not just buy anything that says Atlantic salmon, because almost all Atlantic salmon is farmed. Look for the words wild caught. Look for specific species like sockeye or coho. Sockeye salmon is actually the absolute best choice. It has the deepest red color because it eats the highest amount of wild krill, which means it is absolutely packed with pure, natural astaxanthin and pristine omega-3s. Salmon fixes the body, but if we want to fix the inflammation in the brain, we have to look at a food you probably already have sitting in your kitchen cabinet. When your brain is inflamed, you don't feel it as pain. The brain doesn't have pain receptors like your muscles do. Instead, brain inflammation feels like exhaustion. It feels like brain fog. It feels like you can't focus on a simple task. You forget why you walked into a room, and you wake up feeling groggy even after 8 hours of sleep. To clear that fog, we need the ultimate brain healer. We need walnuts. There is an old concept in herbal medicine called the doctrine of signatures. It is this idea that foods in nature resemble the part of the human body they are meant to heal. A slice of a carrot looks like an eye. A tomato has 4 chambers like a heart. But the most shocking example of this is the walnut. If you crack open a walnut shell and look at the nut inside, it perfectly resembles a human brain. It has a left and right hemisphere. It has the exact same wrinkles and folds. It is a wild coincidence in nature, but the crazy part is that modern science has proven it right. Walnuts actually are the single best nut for neuroprotection. The secret to a walnut's brain healing power starts with its massive amount of ALA, or alpha-linolenic acid. This is a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. While it is great for your heart, the real magic happens in your digestive system. This is where we have to talk about the gut-brain connection. Your gut and your brain are constantly talking to each other through something called the vagus nerve. It is like a high-speed fiber optic cable running from your stomach straight up into your skull. If your gut is inflamed, it sends alarm signals up that cable, and your brain becomes inflamed. If your gut is calm and healthy, your brain becomes sharp and clear. When you eat a handful of walnuts, they travel down into your colon. The fiber and the specific fats in walnuts act as the perfect food for a very specific type of good bacteria living in your gut. You are essentially feeding an army of microscopic bugs. When these good bacteria eat the walnuts, they digest them and produce a byproduct. They poop out a compound called butyrate. Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid, and it is a total game changer for human health. When butyrate is released into your gut, it quickly absorbs into your bloodstream. It actively dials down inflammation throughout your entire body. But more importantly, it travels up to your brain, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and turns off the inflammatory alarms. It acts like a fire extinguisher for your nervous system. Within a few days of getting enough butyrate-producing foods in your system, that heavy, thick brain fog starts to lift. You wake up feeling sharp. Your memory feels quicker. Your joints even stop aching as much because the systemic inflammation is dropping. If you're tired of waking up with brain fog and stiff joints, and you're ready to actually heal, hit subscribe. We're building a community of people taking their health back, and I want you in it. But the craziest part is still coming. Because while walnuts are amazing, a lot of people complain that nuts upset their stomach. That is because walnuts, like all nuts and seeds, contain something called phytic acid on their skin. Phytic acid is the plant's defense mechanism to stop animals from digesting the seed. If you eat a ton of raw walnuts, that phytic acid can bind to minerals in your gut and cause bloating. The easy fix? Just soak them. Take a handful of raw walnuts, put them in a glass jar, cover them with water, and add a pinch of salt. Leave them on your counter overnight. The water and salt neutralize the phytic acid. The next morning, rinse them off, let them dry, and eat them. They will taste better, they will be easier to digest, and your gut bacteria will have an even easier time turning them into that brain-healing butyrate. You don't need to eat a whole bag either. Just a small handful a day is enough to feed the good bugs and keep the brain fog away. Walnuts are great for daily maintenance. They keep the brain sharp and the gut happy. But what if you want to turn on the absolute strongest defense system your body has? What if you are dealing with serious inflammation, toxic overload, or you just want to age as slowly as humanly possible? I'm talking about the master switch. Let's look at number 1. We are talking about broccoli sprouts. Not regular, full-grown broccoli that you steam for dinner. We are talking about the sprouts. These are 3 to 5-day-old baby broccoli plants. They look like little green strings with tiny leaves on top. They look completely harmless, like something you would use as a fancy garnish at a restaurant. But drop for drop, they are one of the most biochemically powerful substances you can put in your mouth. To understand why, we have to look at a compound called glucoraphanin. All cruciferous vegetables have some glucoraphanin in them. Cabbage has it. Brussels sprouts have it. Regular broccoli has it. But broccoli sprouts contain 10 to 100 times more glucoraphanin than a mature head of broccoli. The plant packs all of its defensive chemicals into the seed and the sprout to protect it while it is young and vulnerable. But glucoraphanin on its own doesn't do much for you. It needs to be transformed. And this is where the magic chemical reaction happens. Inside the cells of the broccoli sprout, there is also an enzyme called myrosinase. In a living, untouched sprout, the glucoraphanin and the myrosinase are kept in separate compartments. They don't touch. But there is a specific way you have to chew them to unlock this chemical reaction. Get this wrong, and you eat them for nothing. When you put a handful of broccoli sprouts in your mouth and start aggressively chewing them, you physically crush the plant cells. You break the walls down. Suddenly, the glucoraphanin and the myrosinase crash into each other. When they mix together in your mouth, they instantly create a brand new, highly unstable, incredibly powerful compound called sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is the holy grail of cellular repair. It is the final boss of longevity nutrition. We are at the final boss of cellular healing. Drop a comment below with your favorite food on the list so far, and let's unlock this master switch. When you swallow that sulforaphane, it enters your bloodstream and does something no other food compound can do. It travels to your cells and flips a genetic switch called the NRF2 pathway. Think of the NRF2 pathway like a thermostat on the wall of your house. Normally, your body's antioxidant defense system is just humming along on a low setting. It does enough to keep you alive, but it gets overwhelmed easily by modern life. When sulforaphane hits the NRF2 switch, it cranks that thermostat all the way up to maximum power. Suddenly, your DNA receives a signal to start printing its own massive army of antioxidants. We are not talking about weak antioxidants. We are talking about glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant. Most people try to get antioxidants by drinking orange juice for vitamin C. But dietary antioxidants operate on a 1-to-1 ratio. One molecule of vitamin C neutralizes one free radical, and then the vitamin C is used up. It is gone. But when sulforaphane flips the NRF2 switch, your body creates endogenous antioxidants. One molecule of glutathione can neutralize millions of free radicals per second, and it keeps doing it over and over again for days. It is a completely different level of healing. When this happens, your liver gets a massive upgrade. Your liver is your body's primary detox organ. It filters the blood and pulls out heavy metals, microplastics, pesticides, and metabolic waste. Sulforaphane actively upregulates the enzymes in your liver that do this filtering. It turns your liver into a superfilter. Studies have shown that consuming a heavy dose of broccoli sprout extract literally causes people to start rapidly peeing out airborne toxins like benzene, which they inhaled just from walking down a city street. It pulls the poison right out of your tissues. Now, remember how I said you have to chew them properly? If you just swallow them whole, you don't crush the cells, the myrosinase never mixes with the glucoraphanin, and you get zero sulforaphane. You have to chew them until they are basically a liquid paste in your mouth. They taste a little spicy and sulfurous, almost like a mild radish. A lot of people try to bypass the chewing by throwing them into a blender for a smoothie. The problem is, blender blades can sometimes destroy the myrosinase enzyme before the reaction can fully happen, especially if you use frozen sprouts. If you are going to blend them, you need to add a secret weapon. Just add a tiny pinch of raw mustard seed powder to your smoothie. Mustard seeds come from the same plant family, and they are packed with extra myrosinase. Adding the powder guarantees the chemical reaction happens in your gut, even if the blender messed it up. You can buy broccoli sprouts at most health food stores, but they go bad very quickly. The absolute best way to get them is to grow them yourself on your kitchen counter. It costs almost nothing. You just buy a bag of organic broccoli sprouting seeds, put a tablespoon in a mason jar with a mesh lid, rinse them with water twice a day, and turn the jar upside down so they drain. In exactly 5 days, you will have a jar packed full of fresh, spicy, incredibly powerful broccoli sprouts. You can grow a constant supply of the world's most powerful cellular medicine for pennies a day. When you look at this list, from the wild blueberries shielding your DNA, to the olive oil sweeping the streets, the salmon rebuilding the walls, the walnuts clearing your brain, and the broccoli sprouts flipping the master switch, you start to realize something incredible. Those zombie cells don't stand a chance. Your body is not broken. It is just waiting for the right instructions. Every single time you sit down to eat, you are making a choice. You are either feeding the inflammation that is wearing you down, or you are fighting it. You are either building zombie cells, or you are sending in the assassins to clear them out. Your fork is the most powerful tool you have to repair your cells, change your energy, and take your life back. So use it wisely. See you next time.